Hello and welcome to tonight's podcast. We're causing all the havoc tonight. We're joined by Chris Mara. Chris, I'm gonna need you to introduce yourself to our wonderful audience. You are muted.
Hello, people. My name is Chris. I am a golf coach and digital content creator based out of Orlando, Florida. I've been on the blocks for on the reality TV show called The Blocks for 2 seasons now, and I'm here. I got coerced into a podcast at 11 o'clock at night thanks to you. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but we're gonna go rock with it.
Surprise him. So you at least know the title of tonight's episode, right?
Well, I might, but would you like to remind me what today's title is?
All right. So tonight's title is AYO. Where'd the boat go? And it's all about our adventures on the high seas and how to make good content while you're making your adventures. So, first things first, what do we mean by the high seas or high seas style campaigns? And we're going to start this off simply with simple what it is. And that is you're on a boat for the majority of your campaign, right? There is not a lot of modules that cover boats. The biggest one that I can think of is Salt March. And even that, the boats in that thing are relatively here and there. So, Chris, just gonna jump to you really quick. When you think high seas adventure and those words pop into your head, what does that image bring up for you? What are the things that pop into your head?
High seas adventure is the only thing. Is it bad? The only thing I can think of when you say high seas adventure is like Pirates of the Caribbean. And,
No,
like,
no,
Jack's, yeah.
that's a great example. Um,
Mhm.
of a classical high seas adventure, right? So that's actually a really easy first step for most people. If you model what your story is about as something similar to any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you're gonna have some really good plots. Now you don't have to mirror them bit for bit. You know what I mean? You don't have to have coins that turn people into zombies. You don't have to deal with Davy Jones. You don't have to deal with your jar of dirt. But if you have them, no one's gonna be upset, and I guarantee that. Because when you're building your adventures on the seas, it is important to remember the exciting stuff still happens on land. Now, of course, you guys can play your bits and whatnot, but Chris, when you're playing golf, where's your favorite place to play? What's your zone? Where is you kill it, regardless of whatever course you're on?
Well, I'm. I think it's just because with any sport, home field advantage. So honestly, the home course that I'm at. So, it's a place called Winter Park 9, and it's just like literally 10 minutes from my house, and
Gotcha,
just
gotcha.
like yeah.
But I mean, what part of when you're playing, like fairway and
Mm.
all that kind of stuff, what part of the course do you always excel at, no matter where you're at in the world?
If you put any type of wedge in my hand, so like the really short distances from like inside of 100 yards, I'm fairly confident I can do pretty well. That's probably pretty much what I've made. The little bit amount of money that I have made in professional golf, so I'd say probably the wedge game's been pretty strong.
Nice wedge game. Okay, and we can be friends then, because that's where I'm at too. I can't drive projectily. My putting's all right, but wedge game, yeah, right where it's at. I'll put you about 3 feet from the hole 90% of the time with the wedge.
Love it.
So, with that thought, right? You as a GM or DM need to focus on what you are good at, regardless of the setting you are in. Wherever you're at in the world doesn't matter. Uh, you focus on what you're good at. If you're good at social encounters, have boats meet up in the middle of the ocean. It's not unrealistic. It just has to be calm. And if you need chaos to occur, you can bring in storms and bad weather. And hello, Younger, sneaking in here. So play
There's
to your
bad weather where I'm at, so it'll be probably muted most of the time, so you don't hear the thunder and lightning behind me.
I was gonna say you're a robot already, so thank you, appreciate you. But obviously, feel free to hop in with thoughts and opinions. I'll ask you questions, and hopefully, we'll be able to hear you. So anyway, play to your home field advantages. Just because you're having a high seas adventure does not mean your boat doesn't need to dock on the regular. In all honesty, if you don't want to actually have any combat or craziness occur on the boat and just have the story be told on land, that is okay. You can still enjoy your aesthetics and motivational bits through the story off your boat. Now, the boat should be used, right? And at a minimum, for any campaign that's on the high seas, the boat should be your home and where your players always have to come back to be their safe spot, quote unquote. Now, obviously, it is easy to jump into campaigns and stories that the boat is where all the fighting occurs, right? But honestly, for anyone that's done any kind of sailing, the ocean gets relatively boring besides the actual sailing bits. You know, when it gets a little wild and crazy, you can go hours or days without having to do much of anything besides make sure you're heading in a straight line. If the weather's nice. If the weather's not nice, totally different game. But if it's not, and again, sometimes you get to just yada yada past your way through things. Now, when we talk about what you are good at, right? In Chris's case, is wedge game. Uh, what is something that you should really, really define yourself with? What is something that uh, you need to prepare when you're getting ready for those quote unquote short games, metaphorically? Younger, he looks.
Well,
Now I'm going to throw it at Younger because he looks like he has an answer.
go ahead.
Are you talking about golfing or the actual game?
No. Playing games, you guys. Metaphorically.
Okay, metaphorically, what do you need to be prepared? Well, you need a team. So you need your crew. They all need to show up, whether it's on a boat or at the golf course who you're playing golf with. You got to have a semi structured plan of like where you're going, where your ship's sailing, or like who you're gonna beat, which course you're gonna go to, whatever have you.
All right, I'm gonna throw this metaphor over at Chris. Chris, metaphorically, what do you need? It's something that the caddies carry for you.
Biggest thing that if you're in professional golf, the biggest thing is you got to come in there with a plan. You can't just be attacking it just completely at random and literally it's like, all right, what do we got? All right, where do we have to go? And then how the heck are we going to get there? So honestly, just planning your way ahead, like thinking 3 steps ahead.
Okay, I mean that's a good thing for any story, right? But especially when you're out on the high seas, knowing where your crew is supposed to be heading before you start throwing hiccups like bad weather or krakens or whatever you feel or deem necessary to get in there. Sorry, give me a second there. Is going to be important. Now, the metaphor I was looking for was you need your golf clubs, right? Because your golf clubs allow you to be ready for every situation that you're putting forward, which still goes into the plan, right? So you guys were right there anyway. But having your golf clubs or your other story bits that aren't necessarily your wedge game, but all the other things you can throw in there and have prepared is going to be important and help you build your story as you move forward and move along. Younger, can you give me an example of an alternative setting to the Pirates of the Caribbean that we had talked about a second ago? What's another time, era, whatever, that you can play and be on a boat that is still technically quote-unquote high seas?
Well, instead of it being physically on the ocean, it could be like you're in space. You're in a spaceship. The spaceship
Sci-fi.
is the safe spot.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that high seas unless you're playing like Treasure Planet style, which I think would actually make for a really, really fun D&D game. Because that's basically.
I also have another one that I want to mention.
Feel free.
Magic School Bus. Okay.
He's not wrong. Yeah.
And if you don't like any of those, you can always go to airships where you're fighting aerial combat instead of on the ocean. Okay.
Okay, I like that one because you can still be over the ocean in an airship. You're just flying above hand.
You could even, in a hot topic today, you could even be in a submarine and do underwater adventures as well.
So again, that's pretty good. Though I think on that one that really would push away from the high seas part, unless it was a short bit of the story. Because you want to be sailing, right? You want to have some kind of boat. And we bring the space adventure one because specifically D&D has a setting that's built for that.
Spelljammer.
Exactly. And it's out. You can see it. You can play it. But Spelljammer lists out way more boats than like physically for the regular D&D stuff and things. So if you guys need inspiration for your boats, go to Spelljammer. The book's in there and convert the boats to regular boats. Lawrence! What about you? Do you have any other settings that you would consider high seas that you would throw in there? I think those were all really good, by the way. Just saying.
I was gonna throw into like Journey of the Center of the Earth kind of thing, but that's not necessarily a sea, I feel, unless it goes into some inner worlds or something.
Okay, I mean, you could definitely start on the high seas and get sucked up in like a giant whirlpool or something and end up on the inside of the Earth. Be an interesting plot line to follow.
Yeah. And I don't know how the ethereal plane works too much, but you could travel back and forth that way.
Another fantastic adventure that you could throw a boat on there and call good.
Take my money.
100%, that'd be a great story. So kind of jumping forward from that thought, when you are crafting your stories, how do you generally craft your crews? How important and what parts of the crew are important? Now I'm going to start with Chris on this one. Just because how do you imagine a crew? What are the things that you feel would be important to a crew?
I would. In what capacity are we talking about when you're talking about crew? Like in general, are we talking about like a certain direction we're going with?
So let's just say you're filling a boat of people. Who would you fill the boat with?
Well, I would probably need a captain. That probably
Okay.
would help. I would probably put someone like a couple of people that are pretty strong swimmers. I would
That's a
probably,
solid.
yeah, I would probably have someone that like maybe has some snacks and maybe some water. Like that might, just in case we pull a Titanic and go kapui. And then maybe someone that's a little bit resourceful, like someone that might have like a life jacket business, just in case anything happens. So I think I covered all that. The rest of them are just like maybe some strong hands to help out just in case shit goes down. So yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So I think we have different words for it, but I think you covered actually most of the crew positions really well. So you started off with the captain, right? Uh, and that's big boss guy, whether that's an actual player that's running around in your stories, or if it is a NPC that is always on the boat kind of thing. You could run that either way. The second one you mentioned was strong swimmers. I'm gonna laterally jump to. I think you mean like the best swimmers or the best people in the crew, which follow in as this captain's lieutenants or right hand man or other people that just kind of play in there. That could also be the players themselves, being the quote unquote strong swimmers because they're the ones that are always getting on and off the boat for whatever reasons. Um, and then we jump to someone with snacks. This is probably one of my favorite character types in high seas adventures, and that's the quartermaster. Quartermaster's the man in charge of all the stuff, right? He gives you the snacks when you need it. And when you're playing these stories, the quartermasters can be generally one of two archetypes. The sweet teddy bear that is happy to give people as much food as they want as long as they're hard workers, or the strictest man on the boat that will stab you if you steal an extra piece of ration. Both are hilarious to play through as a GM or DM, or as a player if you have a player doing those jobs. But those are kind of the roles that fit there. And then you mentioned the last one, which was just like all the other yahoos, the deckhands, the people that are just kind of moving the ship along. I agree with that. You gotta sometimes you gotta do filler, especially depending on how big of a boat you're sailing. I'm going to jump over to Lawrence. Lawrence, you got any additional positions that you think is necessary for an adventure on the high seas?
You mentioned how boring it was, so you definitely need an entertainer, and you always need a navigator.
Okay, all right. Those are both very important. Entertainment. How would you entertain your crew?
Well, let's say in our fantasy scenario, it'd probably be a bard who leads everyone in song or something.
Okay, so let's step
Maybe
outside of fantasy for a second.
okay. Entertainment, modern entertainment on a boat. I have no clue.
Sure.
I would assume people would entertain themselves in their off time with like games or media that they can get. I bet the Wi-Fi is terrible.
Satellite phones, baby.
Give them a
satellite
pool.
phone.
They need a pool.
Oh yeah.
Pool on the
Yeah.
boat. What kind of cruise ship are you running, Younger?
They could have a place where there's an actual diner or a bar.
Oh, if you're thinking cruise ship, definitely.
Yeah, I am. Why not
time-
put some slot machines in there?
Do you guys
So they
know
pay
how-
it.
Time out.
It
Do you
just
guys
sounds
know
like
how many?
Carnival Cruise Line.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Do you guys know how big and how many people are on cruise ships? Like realistically, have you guys ever been on a cruise ship? It's
No,
so
No.
many. It's ridiculous.
It's too many. It's way too many.
Oh,
As an
it's-
introvert, I'm just like, AYO, this is crazy. Like,
So
yeah,
so
So-
there's a couple hundred crew on most cruise ships, and that's like just to run the ships. That's not even like the people that are taking care of the guests. Like It's crazy. There is so many people on that boat that just work for the boat itself. Not to mention the 1,000+ people of families and yahoos causing havoc. I do not recommend cruise as high seas adventures unless you're trying to have a floating city, because that's basically what a cruise ship is, right? If you want a floating city, have a cruise ship. Add those into your story. Totally feasible to have something like that.
Like
You're gonna
an
have to
Imperial Palisade or
modernize.
something.
You're gonna have to modernize your story a lot though, because they didn't figure cruise ships out for a while.
Yeah. They had those. The Chinese had giant boats back in the day, and then there were some built by the Greeks that were pretty big too.
Yes, but they still don't even come close to comparing to modern day cruise ships. It's ridiculous.
And they didn't have a water slide either.
Yeah, no water slide except for the when the plank broke.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, Younger, looking at you, is there any
Yes.
other crew positions that you think are necessary for a high seas adventure? Anything else that you would add?
I believe you guys like briefly hit on it, but you could always go back to the standard Marines, the guys with guns or cannoneers, such defenders, because you have all your sailors, but then you generally also have another group of people who are set aside to fight the pirate vessels or other things of that nature. I know it's kind of expected of the majority of the crew to take place in this effort, but like when a ship has a breach in the hull, people have to be trained on how to plug said holes. And there's multiple ways you can do it, depending on the era of your ship and what supplies are available and what exactly poked a hole in your ship. Early submarines used to just straight up take a drill bit to the bottom of the wooden ships and just individually go and plug holes out of it. Other ones put like little bombs on the end and rammed into your vehicle. Other ones just ships hit each other and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Other ones like cannonballs, anything. So people to plug in the holes.
An important topic. Filling up holes is a fun thing to do, right, Chris? Gotta keep the green new and exciting from time to time. Just as a side question, to go back to golf, how often should someone flip over their hole location? You think? The standards on that or anything?
You should change the whole. I mean, ideally, if you did it right, you're supposed to change it once a day, like once a day. So most courses here where I'm at in Orlando, they're used like in zones. So just like 6 zones, and it's like okay, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and they just usually go off of that. But if it's there, if it's there for more than 2 days, that grass is going to be really, really bad. So I hope that you're changing it at least once a day. It's kind of like your underwear. You should change it at least once a day. I'd hope.
Right?
So, I really hope.
On a high seas adventure, that might not be an option. Just kidding. Wash your drawers. So let's jump into a couple other topics here. So first things up, Younger tapped on this just a little bit. Piracy on the high seas, right? How important do you guys feel that having pirates interface with your story is going to affect stuff along the lines? And this is just an opinion piece, so give me opinion. I'll start with Chris.
Ooh, pirates, man.
Pirates.
I
Do you
mean,
need them?
I mean, it kind of makes things exciting. I mean, like a story with no. A story with what is that called? A story with no conflict. Isn't that kind of boring? Like everything just works out. It's like kind of boring, isn't it? So I think you kind of have to have it. So I think it's a given. It's like something has to happen. Like you can't just be smooth sailing the entire time.
You bring up an interesting question. Can it? And I'm going to toss it at you other two. Can a story be smooth sailing, quote unquote, the entire time where nothing terrible happens? Would you play a story like that? Just constant suspense. Something terrible is going to happen, but it never does.
You could play that story, but as he said, it would be really boring. And if you are going to go, there's nothing going to happen. It better be a really short, like, oh yeah, they went across the ocean. Next chapter.
Okay, I mean, that brings up a very important part, because there is plenty of boring times where nothing happens. If you're going to have something like that, you should probably push forward. Lawrence, you didn't get to answer that question, though. Do you have any opinions that are different?
well, if the story was smooth sailing, people would look for conflict. They would start drama, I assume. Like
Okay.
on a social level, or they would start infighting or something, just to make it interesting.
So maybe if you want to do that kind of style, you throw in some kind of mutiny campaign where the players are trying to get control of the ship from said captain and the other good swimmers.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Or the pirates could show up and you could join them, or
Okay.
something.
Pirates could show up and you can join them. Okay, I mean that's an interesting storyline right there, right? Where you switch and cruise because you're just like a sailor on a ship and then be like, these pirates are cool and unique. I'm gonna one piece it up.
And how else are you going to use those athletics and acrobatics checks?
You can't just lift heavy boxes all day. Be walking
You know
around
what I
like-
did on one of these pirate ship things before? I ran a clue scenario. It was like somebody had murdered somebody else, and it was an investigation to find out who was killing people.
Okay, interesting. You don't necessarily need pirates for that kind of story, but yeah, whodunit is a great addition to the High Seas Adventures. We'll add that as a club in our bag here. What else? What are some other themes that you can throw into these stories that you feel would fit the setting? And again, anyone can kind of just hop in there if you're feeling it. What you got?
Krakens.
Okay,
Jumping on younger
Wait. I got a
younger
noise for
thing
this. That's a good Kraken.
Yummy.
I like that one.
Like Jurassic
Jumping
Park
on-
more than a Kraken. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
But like, it doesn't have to necessarily be a kraken. It could be a
Yeah.
kraken, a giant sea serpent,
I'm surprised you haven't said Megalodon
Dragon
yet.
turtle.
Like,
dragon turtle. You know, Shark Week's coming up at some point.
yeah.
So I guess it could be a megalodon.
Like,
Make Chris happy.
just throw the Meg in there, throw Jason Statham in there, and just call it
Hey.
a fourth movie. Like,
Yes.
and then throw a tornado in it. Then you have like Sharknado.
Sharknado. Wouldn't it be a shark
Yeah.
hurricane though?
Or typhoon. It depends on the region that you're
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Shark food.
Yeah.
Shark
Like-
Foon. That sounds terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
mean,
Jumping on Younger's murder mystery, if the murderer is on the boat and you're out in the middle of the sea, that adds a little bit of suspense.
Right. I agree. It could be any one of us. I believe
Oh.
Dracula did that at one point. You know what I mean? Where he was the murderer, but he was in his coffin. So he just like pop out of his coffin, murder people, then go back to his coffin. And he was in the storage deck the whole time.
Oh no.
So like no one knew. They're just like, this weird old passenger just is so nice to everyone, and then people keep disappearing. And then he would just go back to sleep at night after he murdered people. There's a movie that just came out that's about that, if I remember correctly. Or maybe it's a show. I don't remember. But oh hey,
How could you?
Freya
Super
has
useful.
said they have run a high seas adventure and would like to speak. They have knowledge to share, so I will invite them in. Wahaha. Hello, friend.
Why, hello, friendo. Yeah, so I have actually ran a high seas adventure game once in the past. It was actually my first fully streamed campaign over on the Gilligan. Essentially what I did for it was I did it much like Treasure Planet because that was a very big inspiration. I absolutely loved that movie when I was a kid. So I gave my players a lovely little MacGuffin ball that showed a map to other pieces of MacGuffin ball. So it gave them directions and coordinates to where to go in the world. So it gave them easy sort of trail to pick up on and move forward through, but also because, it's a high seas adventure game, you gotta make sure that you have a lot of things ready for random encounters. Like I had a ghost ship that appeared, I had a stowaway. Actually, one of my favorite things in that entire campaign was a stowaway, and it was just a little changeling girl who ended up becoming a major plot point to the story. One of the biggest things when you're running any type of high seas adventure game or anything involving stuff like that is really just remembering that, hey, you're a pirate, or hey, you're a privateer, you're out on the seas, anything can happen, the storms, anything. The wind could always be in your favor, or it could all be going in some other favor. And it's so important just to be able to roll with the things that your players really like, and to make sure that the expectations there at the very beginning, like, hey, y'all want loot, right? and let's get you to run some loot.
So, to go on that note, I'm gonna ping off your loot question. What would make you, and I'm gonna ask this to everybody, go on an adventure on the high seas? What would cause you to hop on a boat right now and be a pirate for, we'll say, 6 months? What treasure would drive you as a person?
6
Ooh.
months.
6 months, yeah.
Damn.
We'll say 6 months. You're going away for half a year at a minimum.
I need at least $100 million, bro. Like at least $100.
$100 million. All right, One Piece, I got you.
Yeah.
You say 100 million?
100 million
You know
for
how
6
long
months.
Listen,
6 months is?
Most
6
of the
months?
scrubs out here can't get past 40,000, bro. There are a lot cheaper dudes out here than you, is all I'm saying.
Okay, first of all, Raj knows where I come from in the television side of things, but like on the real though, do you know how long 6 months is? Like, that's a long time.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I love 6 months.
Like, Raj, like, here's the thing: we shot the freaking our first season together of reality TV 6 months ago. That's how long ago it was. That's a long time ago. Like,
Yeah, it
I think it's a
was.
little longer than that. Like, Jesus, man, it's a while.
A lot changes. I agree.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Rod guy? You saying 100 million? That's too much. What do you need? Bag of chips?
Okay. What would I do? Okay, it's got to be obviously some fantastical treasure, though. If it's a fantasy world, I'm just saying that the
I mean,
average scrub,
no. You right now, IRL.
me as a
something
real person,
Picks you up
I
from
got to be a pirate. So first off, that means I'm going to be illegal to some country, right?
Yep, guaranteed.
So, oof, man, that would have to be a lot. That'd be a lot. Like I'd have to have like my own private island after this because there ain't no way I'm allowed to come back.
Oh, you're scoffing as 100 million. You're like, I need my own personal island at a minimum. What?
I need a
Get
place
out
to
of-
roam.
you're-
to hide.
Go back to
I
mute.
mean,
You-
Wait,
we-
you
the
can
island
even
is
specify
cheaper
about
than
the size
100
of the
mil.
island too. Like the
So-
island could be like this small little like it can be the size of this bed, and that could have been a private island.
So like, all I'm saying is like me personally, I'm not willing to go against the United States of America.
Look, you could be
There
in a
was
whole
plenty
other
of
country.
other
I ain't
people
saying you
who
have to
do
go
it for a
against
lot
us.
less that are in the real world right now.
So I want to know about you though. All right, jumping down to Lawrence. What would make
it
you
would
get
have
on a
to-
boat and be a pirate or privateer?
This will
Whatever.
seem general and basic, but it would have to enrich my life in a way that would make it worth it, whether it be monetarily or a good story or just a better life or I don't know, discovering something new. That would be great.
All right. Freya? Le croissant.
Honestly, probably just do it as long as it was somewhere where I'd be able to see beautiful structures. Like I absolutely love seeing like proper nature and everything like that. I like adventures, so for me it's not really how much it takes to get me somewhere. It's can I survive that long? All right, let's go for it.
Nice. Okay.
Put you on Survivor. We could do that.
True.
That'd be fun. So I'm gonna say mine. Someone'd have to die. I'd have to lose a family member. It would be a revenge course. I'm getting revenge by the end of this. There's
Okay.
gonna be a lot of blood. There's gonna be a lot of smoke. I'm gonna make Blackbeard look like a loser.
That's a tall task.
Oh, I know. Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. All right. So, silly question
I just want
aside.
to say that you can find pirate salaries on ZipRecruiter.
Get out of here, you goose.
I'm serious. It's like average salary in the U.S. is 80,000.
I'm fucking jealous.
That's what it says.
Believe it. So, jokes aside, moving forward. Speaking about loot, do you guys have any in your stories that you would basically always add for the people that have played before? Or, actually, we'll start with Chris. What would be something that you would add to your fantasy story? Now, we kind of talked about the MacGuffin ball, but like besides gold and the obvious like instantaneous, you sell the thing and get the thing. What kind of treasure would you want to search after if you were a fantasy character, or would you want your character to be searching for?
Is the Fountain of Youth way too basic?
No, that's a good one.
No. Nothing's
Okay,
too basic.
Hey man,
I'll
if
stick
you
with
want to go to
them.
the Fountain of Youth, from what I remember you saying,
You stole mine.
because I was watching,
Yeah.
you just gotta go up to St. Augustine.
Yeah, I know. It's
Right
like
there.
an hour and
Jeez.
45 minutes from where I live, and I saw the Fountain of Youth, and then some little kid tried tasting the Fountain of Youth, and he said it tasted like dimes, and I was like, I don't know how you know what dimes taste like, so I'm just gonna ignore that statement.
That's the question.
Like, I don't know why. Like,
I just moved from Jacksonville, man.
Yeah,
So no,
so-
I get you.
yeah, that little kid tried the Fountain of Youth like illegally, and that kid literally said it tastes like dimes. And my question to me is like, how do you know what dimes taste like? Because that's not it. I mean, that's just weird.
You start
So-
rapidly de-aging. Just he was a fetus in 26 seconds. It was crazy.
Then he got like the really like corny T-shirt that said "I drink from the Fountain of Youth," and it's like in like graffiti print. I don't know.
Oh yeah, dude, it's so awful.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sure,
Yeah.
tell
Okay,
me
so
you
we
didn't
got-
drink from the youth. You were there.
He said no. It tastes like dimes. All right.
It
Wow.
tastes like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Somebody said it tasted like dimes. That's you know what?
Something that I
trust
would
them. I don't need
do,
it.
like the city of gold. You know, that's pretty basic. You know, find
Okay.
the city of gold. There's your $100 million, but it's way cooler because it's in an architectural place, and everybody will leave you alone because nobody else knows where it is.
I don't know.
Allegedly.
National Treasure kind of proved you can find the City of Gold in like 2 hours and 30 minutes. Apparently.
Eldorado.
Yeah.
30 minutes. I mean,
They found-
in the movie, it was longer than that, but yeah, basically.
It
Lawrence.
was like, they found the City of Gold in 2 hours. Like, if it's really that difficult to find this thing, if we can find it in one movie, how difficult is it to find the City of Gold? Let's be honest here. Nick Cage found this thing. It's like, and they're arguing about what type of water to put on
I
this
got
thing.
it. I got it.
Yeah.
Alien stuff.
Alien stuff. Ooh, okay. And
Yeah,
interesting. Kind of going back to the sci-fi questions.
Yeah, going and like there's a spaceship or something, and it crashed somewhere, and you have the means to go over there and get it before anyone else does. Sounds like getting a new government contract gig for me.
I mean, that'd be kind of interesting if you want to modernize your story, as you are some kind of researcher or attached to a research team that is going after a crashed UFO. That could be super fun, I think. Go back to that murder mystery. By the time you get the UFO, you bring it back on board, and someone starts dying. Surprise, surprise! It was the alien in the ship the entire time.
Ooh.
Lawrence.
And it wasn't even in the alien ship.
Oh,
it was in the normal ship.
Low level, Ring of Wishes. High level, Poseidon's Trident or something like that.
Oh, okay. So you're bringing straight up D&D items into it. I like that. Those are both cool items to hunt for, and ridiculously overpowered in their own rights.
Yeah.
Like Croissant, what about you? What kind of treasure do you seek in your adventure tales on the high seas?
So, the treasure that I had set up in my campaign was a flying ship. I know in your setting, like that's more common, but in my setting, it's one of those things where there's only actually 2 in existence that have survived through the calamity and the fall of magic in the past. Now, from my characters in your game, the first one would be trying to find longevity potions or maybe a ring of wishes, something like that to reset their time.
I do not
and
be an
the
old
second
woman,
one-
please.
Exactly. And then for the one that I'm currently playing, I'd have to say probably like the thing that turned the first human, or like the first insert thing, because that would be a strong enough artifact to take her from 0 to 100 real fucking quick.
That'd be pretty fantastic, actually. I agree. Okay, so we have the City of Gold, the Fountain of Youth, the first vampiric relic, and Lawrence, you said some pretty fantastical items. I think the only thing that my character would need to go on any kind of adventures in a fantasy setting is crickets, boredom, something else to do, because why not? That's how you play the games, where you get somewhere. So
Wanderlust.
Wanderlust is a powerful drug. In both Fallout and in New Vegas.
I like traveling and all, but being wanted by the government.
I think
Okay.
I need to introduce your character to like a Rubik's cube. Like, here you go. All right, play
Here
with
you
that.
go, Don't be dangerous. Have something fun. Okay, look.
I know.
Okay,
I
I'm
do
not
have a really unique perspective on something.
speaking of Nicolas Cage. I'm not Nicolas Cage in the Enter the Spider-Verse. Okay, the Rubik's Cube will not drive me crazy. All right,
But
go ahead, Lauren.
if you think about it, modern day bankers, like the people who like work in the bank, are kind of like the crews of pirate ships.
I got to finish that statement.
Like all this money goes through their hands, but like they barely keep any of it themselves.
Man,
Yep.
that is just me working at Wawa.
That makes
So
me
he's
think
just
of
as much
the.
of a pirate as the banker. So a guy that works at Wawa is just as much of a pirate as a guy that works at a bank. So
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. Do you know? Like, I myself, just working down in Florida for the 11 months I was there, or 10 months I was there, probably touched over a mil. Just to the amount of cash that, like, because everyone in Florida is just cash, 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 cash. Like, dude, just use your card.
it's
Do
true.
a self checkout.
I can attest to
Leave
this. We
me
like cash a
alone.
lot. We really do.
You got it. You spend it, right? So speaking about Miami, let's talk about beautiful city settings set on the coast. What do you think you need to add to cities to make them feel as if you're in a Miami type setting? What makes a Miami type city there, Chris?
A city that's underwater. No, I'm
Ooh,
kidding.
straight up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, maybe a beach line. Like maybe some nice hotels, a Ritz Carlton, a Waldorf, something like on the coastline. I made that joke because obviously I think Miami's going to be underwater in the next 35 years. Because
plot
Phil Davis
twist: Atlantis.
probably.
That'd be a good reason to become a
Okay.
pirate.
Okay,
Is we've got a map to Atlantis? Check.
nice. Good callback.
If it's still underwater.
So to push on to that question a little bit heavier, so what makes a Miami-esque town is some fancy hotels and a beach line, and that's it?
Yeah, and ironically, they might name a hotel called the Atlantis, and then probably put like an infinity pool out on the rooftop, and then they'll probably like make some like, I don't know, some sea terms like, oh, sex on the beach. Here you go. Like that's all you got? Yeah, that's all we got. We can't think of any other drink. That's all. So I was like, okay, sounds good.
Just calling out a specific thing. God damn.
I can name drop. It's fine. Like you guys got to ski a little bit more. You know, Miami's kind of expensive. You guys get a little more creative here, and you're probably going to be underwater. So
You don't want to drink the intoxicating pufferfish?
No, I'm Filipino. We don't drink that stuff. Like we eat some weird stuff. Like
Hey, but the food is good. Don't
to say,
don't
you
hate,
know.
and it lasts forever. Sorry. Side note: Filipino food. Lumpia is a small drug in my house.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Can't go
It's
wrong.
like a large drug in my country, so it's like it's fine.
So, jumping
Honestly,
onto the. Oh,
well-
sorry. Go ahead.
What makes a good, in my opinion, for like if you're doing something in D&D or something like that, what makes a really good thing for like any major port town is showing the.
I think he gave you the go-ahead, Chris.
Their places. You know, showing the influences from like the other cities around it or that be trading into that area. So say if like one of the major cities that they have a good trading rapport is one that is specifically like the Silk Town or something like that. So like you would have these nice little pockets of these traders that all know each other because they're all from that same town, and may or may not be working with the same people, the same captains and stuff like that. It's really just important to make sure that you show the influences of other cultures within these port towns that are major trading. Right? I mean, it just makes sense to me.
That makes sense to me. I agree completely. You could totally make some really bomb towns by just tagging stuff from other places. Now, kind of on that vein, how important is what you carry on your ship that you're traveling with, you guys think? But how important is what your crew is traveling with comparatively to where they are traveling?
Depends. Are you
Depends. All right.
delivering an object from one place to another? Because if you're delivering something, obviously that's most important. Second most important, probably being the means to survive said journey, which could be most likely food and fresh water. And or an individual, who has the means of creating those things magically, or catching fish if you don't have enough for the entire journey. or the means to defend yourself.
Okay. I mean, I think that makes sense to me. Anyone else have any additional bits to that one?
You should carry with you a resource that is abundant from your region, that is scarce in the region that you're arriving in.
It's always good to have a good trade base.
Yes, for sure. So when you get there, you have enough money to resupply and come back and bring back exotic things.
Okay. I mean, yes. But I mean, how much
I can get
importance?
older statement.
How much importance do you guys
Something might be
feel?
important.
How much important do you guys feel should be placed on what is being carried? Like, what is it? Something that's kind of just like, yeah, it's food and water, resources, whatever, or should it always be, hey, there's something important in the crew that can be a quote unquote MacGuffin for pirates to show up or for other interesting people to appear, stowaways, things like that.
So,
Having an important item or person would be interesting.
Okay.
so I definitely recommend, especially if you're pushing a narrative story forward and it is a pirate, then having a MacGuffin or having that person that you are sort of tasked with keeping track of, or even having one of your players be that person. Um, it's a very important thing because otherwise you can really lose track of where you're going with the story. Like I'm not a very big fan of railroading. If anybody's like sat down and like watched my campaigns or anything like that, a lot of the time I'm very free flow, but I do still have those moments where it's just like, hey, this is the main. I like the idea of the MacGuffin because having just a small item or something like that really allows you to push forward easily with the story, because your entire party could get derailed, do a bunch of extra side quests, but they still have this item that brings them back to the story that you as a DM could have planned, right? It's I personally always recommend having some form of item that has some form of significance, and the players, whether or not they realize it, they could have just bought a random vase, but they didn't rub the vase right, and the genie didn't pop out, but somebody else knows that's there.
Man, I hate it when my vase isn't rubbed right and Genie doesn't pop out. That's rough.
That's what she said.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Chihuahua.
Loaded and ready. All right. So we got the importance of what you're traveling with and like the things you can add to it. We talked about the styles that you can do it, but we haven't really talked about the importance of the locations you are traveling. How important is it comparatively, in your guys' opinion? This is 100% an opinion piece. Where in your stories that you would like to tell in the future is it focused? Is it focused on the journey or the destination? What is more important to the stories you think you want to tell? I'm going to start with Chris.
Well, typically most of the movies that you're trying to talk about, they usually focus on the journey itself. Obviously, it's like I'll give like a random shot in the dark here, like Star Wars when they're trying to like destroy the Death Star. Like obviously they're trying to get to the Death Star, but they don't. It's like, But I like the process of how they kind of got there. So I think it's more about the journey of how I got there, more
Okay.
because yeah, that's just me.
So you're about the journey and not about the destination, which is good. I mean, especially for a high seas adventure, having the bits on the journey totally makes sense. Younger, you look like you had additional thoughts.
So that was earlier. It has since flown away into the distant realms of my mind. However, yeah, for this particular question, it would definitely be more along the lines of the journey, because obviously, the end piece is also like where your destination is also going to be a part of the story, or it could be a new beginning to another story. And like unless that's like the last mission on the campaign, like that's not like the end of it as is. Unless the end is like you find Atlantis, and then we're not going to talk about any of the repercussions that come from finding Atlantis. Um,
In
but
this arc, next arc, that's all it's about. Story progressions. Okay, what about you,
that's all I can
Lawrence?
think about at the moment.
I'd say both kind of in a way, because I don't
Middle
want to have to
ground.
fight three Krakens. I don't want to have to fight three Krakens just to deliver cheese wheel. You know, to some little fisherman's village or something, and just have to go through all this calamity to do something simple. That wouldn't be fun. But having to fight three Krakens to make your way to a kingdom to grab an important piece of media you got to bring back to your king, or to save someone important, that's all great. But either way, if either one sucks, it doesn't feel right.
Hey, we talk about this a lot, is setting expectations with your stories. So I mean, not to skip le croissant here, but we'll say uh, the expectations you set when you start your story need to be kept through the entirety of the thing. Now you can update and talk about these expectations throughout the thing and be like, the traveling's boring. All we ever do is show up at a place and never get to play on the boat. You can then change things at that point to be like, we're out in the boat now. Get ready for Krakens. But before we get too far, let's go back to Freya here. Freya, what's the important bit for you? The journey or the destination?
So like was said before, it needs to be a very healthy balance. The journey can only feel as important as the payoff on each leg, right? So like said, you're delivering a cheese wheel to some random fisher guy on an island all alone, and you have to fight 6 Krakens or 3 Krakens, right? Like, that's not cool. You did it. It might have been fun in the moment, but like at the end of it, it doesn't feel like the journey was worth it. To hark back to the campaign that I ran, like each part of them trying to get the MacGuffin, the other hemisphere for the circle, was one of those things that felt like it was something building up to something. So for me, I was able to get away with making a really cool, interesting visual in their head for the final bit, for when they got to the loot hall and they realized that the loot hall opened up to a flying ship and then portals they could go through.
Very,
that led
very
to new
Treasure
worlds
Planet.
to plunder.
Very, very Treasure Planet. I like it.
Exactly. Like, it was. I love Treasure Planet. It's a great movie. It's fine. Yeah, I'll rip it. It's fine. It's not like it was 100% the same. But yeah, so it's very important that, like, when you're doing, like, yes, the journey is important. That don't skimp out on the journey. But remember that every part of the journey is just another step to the end. So you got to make sure that it feels as if you're actually stepping up and you don't step down.
Interesting. Okay, that's definitely words to live by.
I got something. So Freya's earlier context reminded me of an important thing that I do for not just, in regards to my ship related campaigns, but just my campaigns in general. And that is, if you give your players enough information within the environment that they are in, whether it be like the city that they're in or the boat that they're on and the people that they interact with, eventually, generally, the players will find something that's interesting that they want to latch onto. And then if you are a good creative storyteller, you can just make up some extra stuff as you go and then make that an important plot point. Like, oh yeah, they stumbled across an item within the ship, or they stumbled across another individual who was a stowaway, or they, ran across a body, whatever it is, like kind of like play on the players, like jokes around the table and stuff until it like comes to fruition, and then they're like, oh man, they get really into it. That was something that my players have greatly enjoyed over the years of playing with different groups, is kind of playing on those like original things, and then they're like, holy cow, I can't believe that was real.
Right?
100%
Right.
agree.
I'm right there with you. So, to kind of push forward a little bit more here, when we get past all that, what are some other inspirational stories that you can draw from? So we talked about Treasure Planet, we talked about Pirates of the Caribbean. What are some good high seas fantasies that you would recommend people watch, or read, or listen to, or stuff like that? Just one.
Whatever the sea version of Mad Max was, I can't remember the name.
Say that again. Sorry.
Whatever the sea version of Mad Max was.
I think the universe is censoring you. What? The C version of what?
The Mad Max.
Mad Max. Oh, okay.
Mad
I think
Max.
you could just take Mad Max and turn that onto a high seas adventure and call that good.
There is one. There's a movie.
Waterworld.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay. That's a good one. I like that one. All right. Who else? Who's got other ones?
Oh yeah, Life of Pi.
Life of Pi. Oh, excellent for single or double players. You know what I mean? Small groups on a small boat. Solid choice. Throw a tiger in there, have a real bad day.
The tiger's actually just a druid.
Right.
The entire time. Yes. All right.
So, I guess this isn't really like seas, but this one is still, a ship is involved. Just watch the Firefly series. Each episode is a lovely thing and a good way of seeing what happens in a random encounter. Like my favorite episode is the Adrift one, where it's just Mal alone on the ship because the life support systems are down, and he let all the rest of the crew go, and he's just trying to fix his ship.
Okay.
You know?
All right. You could definitely draw some really good inspiration from Firefly, but like just in general. But on a high seas adventure, yeah, that's something you could totally adapt and turn into everyday stuff. All right, Lawrence.
Not particularly my genre, so I don't have any like stories. But I was listening to some weird accounts from history the other day, and then these Greek or Roman sailors went around the horns of Africa, and their descriptions, not knowing these people or these places, were just absolutely amazing. So just taking an account from someone back in the day going to new lands, that would be excellent.
I think that'd be a great source for stories. I agree. Okay, I got one more, and it's gonna be a little controversial. Star Trek. You could Next Generation or the OGs, 100% basically
Oh,
just
totally.
high seas adventures disguised with spaceships. You could turn everything Captain Kirk did into pirate land silliness, and it would make
Kirk
just
was
about
definitely
as
a part.
much. Curtis.
You know what? I have a shorter, much more controversial one.
Uh-oh, no. You're done with controversies today. I don't trust you.
Titanic.
That's
know-
You hit the iceberg, you're in the ocean, you have to rely on somebody else to save you or you die. So,
Look, if you're
One that's
playing,
a lot less controversial.
look. If you're I'm listening. Go ahead.
One that's a lot less controversial is one of the more recent doctors from Doctor Who. It was the Lady Doctor, I believe.
The Lady Doctor.
There was a moment where she and her companions got to meet the pirate queen from China. I can't remember her name. But like that entire episode is just absolutely a masterpiece of like deep seas monster and great old school pirate. Like it's amazing.
Jason the Argonauts. So I'm gonna wrap things up here because we could talk about sea references all day because it's a major part of our cinema history. And
I'm
I'm
surprised
gonna.
no one said SpongeBob. Like what the? I was
Oh man, ruin it with SpongeBob. There's no.
I'm surprised. Come on.
We're fine.
they
We're
literally
fine.
drive boats underwater.
Hey, I
And they
want to
also
hear.
start fires underwater. Like so.
And they drink underwater.
Yeah.
They also have water underwater.
Yeah.
They go to the
Okay.
beach.
High.
All right,
Like
hold up.
Everybody's playing a sea elf or a triton.
All right, enough of this, you silly yahoos. We're gonna wrap things up. So I'm gonna give it to Chris for the last couple minutes here to kind of talk and do about anything that he wants to promote or talk about. And then we will do our
Yeah.
outros and all that fun stuff. So, Chris, you have the silence of everyone else. Everyone else can mute and be quiet for 2 minutes or 3, whatever you need.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is actually a getaway for the fact that I have to grand open a business literally on the 17th of July. So that's coming up very, very shortly here. So we're doing a grand opening of our new place, which is going to be fun. And well, I was actually just talking to some people from the show, and I was just like, I got no idea how this is gonna go about it, but as you and I both know, Raj, we just have to just full send it and hope for the best. So that's literally what we're doing. So I'm just gonna full send it and hope for the best, and we'll just see how this goes. I just don't know. We've done everything that we could to prep, so now we're just like, all right, time to jump into the deep waters. So here we go. Let's do it.
Nice boat reference.
Time to let the ship sail.
So for those that are curious about the new business, can we get names and all that fun stuff where it's located?
Yeah. So the new business is called Full Swing Physical Therapy and Golf. So for those that don't know, it's a full facility. So essentially, I am a golf instructor as my actual job. So what happened was this facility is actually one of the only facilities in Florida to contain a golf instructor, a physical therapist, and a golf performance trainer all in one facility, and all revolved around the game of golf under one indoor roof. So right just outside of Orlando on the northern side in Longwood. And we are launching July 17th. We've been working for like the last month in soft open trying to get everything in there. I've been working a lot of hours just with my normal job on top of all the other shticks I have to do. So it's finally fun to actually officially open the place, which is nice.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations. I wish you guys the best of luck. For those of you in the Florida area, go check him out, especially if you're a golf fan. If you're not a golf fan, just go harass him and make him give you a back rub or something. Or the physical therapist guy, whatever.
Okay.
They do so much more than that, man.
That's. By the way, for this reason, Roger, we're actually launching a podcast. We haven't announced the name of it because literally I had a client direct message me asking the difference between a massage therapist and a physical therapist.
Nice.
I'm like, oh,
nice.
So
okay.
I actually have to make a.
I can respect it though because I got a scar right here from my surgery, so I don't got full range of motion. So like I understand.
Yeah. They just don't know the difference, and I'm like, great, you just gave me my first episode of the podcast. Actually telling the people what we actually do for a living, that probably should help. So
sorry, that was a bad joke on my part. I know the difference.
No, it's good. That was perfect transition. I was like, oh, thank you for reminding me.
All right, so that being said, keep an eye out for his podcast. We'll post links when that gets up and going, obviously. Other than that, we have this month's code for our 10% off of the website. Young, you remember what it is this month? July.
Fireworks 907?
Yes! That's it. So Fireworks 907 gets you about 10% off on basically everything on the website that we sell directly. Yeah, I don't have anything major. D&D next week, Lantern next week. As long as everything goes to plan. Thank you guys so much for listening. And remember, with adventure in mind, have a wonderful time. Bye.
Bye.
Just kidding, you guys are getting the theme song. Good night, everybody.